Hey guys, this video will be about how a car alternator works. Ta-da! In layman's terms, I'll make it as easily understandable as I can for you guys. There's a lot going on in this bad boy. Alright? This is a three wire, what they call three-wire alternator. And the reason there's three wires is, I'll tell you right now. One, there's an exciter wire. Now, the reason also it's called three-wire because there's three wires coming out of this alternator. Right? The exciter wire is one of them. This is my favorite type of wire. For reasons I should not say because it's women and children viewing this video. Anyway, this exciter wire, what this does is, upon startup, this guy needs some juice to create juice. And remember that, okay? I'm gonna refer back to that again in further down this video. In other words, this guy needs money to make money, more money. Upon startup, there's no juice going to it, so he uses the battery juice that gets it from this exciter wire, and this gets hot when you turn your ignition to hot. This also, what this exciter wire does, is also like a Noid light. In other words, when you're driving down the street and you see your battery light go on, oh, the alternator is bad, this does that too. It's connected to your dash. So that's the first wire. Second wire, remote voltage sensing wire. What this does is, it senses this is like I call this guy the messenger. Okay? This guy tells this guy how much voltage the battery has. And if it doesn't have enough voltage, this guy needs to charge it up more, so to charge up to increase the voltage to that battery. Remember, what the alternator does essentially is it charges the battery, so your car won't die when you're driving, because the battery alone can't take up all the load that all your equipment on your car is drawing, all the power that it's drawing. So this remote voltage sensor wire. It's located close to the battery and is a messenger for this guy right here. Second wire sticking out of the alternator is your battery wire. This you should know. If not, I'll tell you right now what it does. This is the big cable, the output cable, which is right here on this one. It says battery on it. It charges the battery. So the output of this guy that goes to the battery to charge it is a battery wire. And this is your typical three-wire alternator. Numero dos. What we'll talk about is the regulator. This guy is very important. And most likely, something that goes wrong in the alternator, it's because of this guy's fault. He's the brain of the operation. He takes control of this bad boy. Now, if you take a look at a regulator, there's three terminals on it. Two are input, and one is output. Okay. One, your remote voltage sensor is connected to this one. Your messenger tells this guy what to do. Sorry about that. Your messenger tells this guy what to do. Remember, like I said, if it's undercharged, this guy has to send more volts out there to charge the battery. So the regulator needs to know that because this is the brain of the operation. So it's connected to that. Pretty simple, right? Your next input is your field circuit input, which I call field circuit input. Remember, I said this guy needs power to make power. He needs money to make more money. This is money right here, your input money, your input juice. This is what the regulator uses as the input juice, which is actually the output juice of the rotor, which I'll get to in a sec later on, which ties everything together. The juice that this guy makes, it harnesses that, okay? Here, into its input. Remember at the beginning, the exciter's wire job was to give this guy juice upon initial startup. Now once the car gets running and this starts turning and it makes power on its own, that's where this comes into play. It takes the output voltage, the output power that it makes, and it harnesses it and throws it back into the rotor itself, which I'll talk to in a minute. So the output, which I'll call also the field current, output in this case, I call it output. What this does is, the regulator takes the information from its messenger and from the output of the alternator and pulls that and draws it here and regulates it, how much it's going to be on the output here, on the rotor. Okay? It essentially acts like a filter. It filters how much is going to be sent to the rotor, which will give me my third part here. The rotor. Now, the more power it gives from the okay, let me backtrack a little bit. The regulator gives the power to the rotor through brushes. And you always hear brushes in the alternator. That's what it does. The brushes are connected to a slip ring, a copper ring on this rotor. Okay, the brushes constantly make contact on this rotor and are wear items. Okay, these are also wear items that could go wrong in the rotor. Now these brushes, the regulator controls how much voltage goes onto this rotor through these brushes. Okay. Now a rotor in this rotor has it's an iron core and there's windings on it. Okay. This also has windings. The more voltage it gives to this rotor through these brushes, the more of a stronger magnetic field it produces. Now you heard the term electromagnet. This is where it comes into play. The more electricity you put on an electric object, the higher its magnetic forces are, the stronger the electromagnet is. Now, this is essentially a turning electromagnet, which will bring me to the fourth part of this alternator, is a stator. The stator are windings that are on this case. Okay? Now, the more power the regulator gives this rotor, the stronger the magnetic field is when it turns. The stronger the magnetic field is, the more electricity gets produced in the stator. The stator, these windings, now what happens is, these windings take this magnetic field and it produces electricity. Okay? Now, let's make this simple. The stator has 3 windings, which is also called a 3-phase alternator. Okay? Now, let's make this simple. Let's talk about one phase only. One winding. Okay? Now, this one winding, this is what it looks like. You got your positive and your negative here. When it creates electricity, it'll create a sine wave. That's called a sine wave. Positive, negative. This alternating current. Alternating current, AC. And that's what they call a alternator. That's where they get the name from. So now let's talk about numero 5. 5 for those of you that don't understand Spanish. The bridge rectifier. Who would have known there's so many things going on in the alternator, right? Okay, the bridge rectifier. This is what the bridge rectifier does. It has 6 diodes in here. What a diode is, it's a one-way check valve, I like to call it. For electricity, it only goes one way, it can't go backwards. Which converts, let me backtrack a little bit, alternating current goes back, front and back, okay? It goes both ways. That's one way to think of it. So a diode essentially is a one-way check valve, and let's make this simple. Remember, we have 3 windings, 3-phase alternator. We're talking about one winding though, but for each winding, there's 2 diodes for each winding. That's why there's 6 diodes in this bridge rectifier. So let's make this simple. One winding has 2 diodes. So this diode will split the negative and the positive. Okay? And this will essentially, the bridge rectifier will essentially, well, once it goes through the diodes, the negative diodes throw down the negative side onto the case, and the positive side will look like this. The output into the battery output. Remember here, the battery terminal here that gives juice to the battery. This is where it gets the juice from the bridge rectifier here. And it looks something like that. Okay. Once it cuts down the positive side, it'll look like that. Now with the three phases here, it's gonna look something like this. One revolution of this rotor, you get six of these bad boys up there. Sorry, I'm having a senior moment. I'm a clown with ADD sometimes. So you get 6 pulsations for each revolution of this rotor. Let's talk about also a capacitor. Now what a capacitor does inside this alternator is it smooths out these pulsations to protect this bridge rectifier. And also it smooths it out when it shoots out the electricity out of this battery terminal. Certain things in the car also get smooth out this this current. Now this is pretty much, once it shoots out this battery cable, it's pretty good direct current. It's very usable, especially at low RPM, which is something that generators couldn't do. Anyway, let's not talk about that right now. Certain instruments inside your car, electrical doodads like the radiator, that has an extra filter in it to further smooth this out, okay? So it doesn't damage any of its components. Now, number 07 is a diode trio. Well, that's this trio and that's this diode. Okay. There's three diodes here, 3 check valves, 1 for each phase. And what that does is, this sends the field current, the positive field current, remember positive, to this regulator right here. Now we're coming full circle. So the output of this rotor sends the field current, the positive field current, to this regulator. You know, need money to make more money. So then the regulator takes this current and through the brushes onto the rotor to the slip ring, copper slip rings, it gives it more power or less power from this field current right there. And that is how a car alternator works. I think I covered the basics. And if you ever wonder what this thing here is, that's a fan. It cools down the alternator because you don't want it to burn up in there. It gets kind of hot. And I hope now you learned something. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe underneath. It's free to subscribe, and if I ever make any more videos, you could watch them. It will keep you updated. Thank you, and have a nice day. Please come again. Bye.